It started on a Saturday afternoon at our house. We had planned a small birthday party for my niece, Alison's daughter. Balloons, cake, backyard games, the usual. Everything felt normal, like any other family gathering. I helped decorate, made punch, even bought the little girl a pink dress with sparkles because I knew she'd love it. I thought it was a good day, but the next morning, everything changed. Please stay with me as I tell you my story. And please, don't forget to support our channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing with your loved ones, because what happened next wasn't just betrayal. It was a war I never saw coming. My phone rang just after 9. I was still half asleep. It was my husband. His voice was cold, flat. He said, "Alison told me you hit her daughter yesterday. She's crying and says she's scared of you." I blinked, confused. "What? Are you serious?" "She wouldn't lie about this," he said. "You need to come clean." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd. I had never even raised my voice to that child, let alone laid a hand on her. But he didn't laugh with me. He just told me to sleep on the couch until things could be figured out. That night, I sat in silence on the living room sofa, while he locked himself in our bedroom. The same man I'd loved for 6 years didn't even ask me what really happened. He just believed her. Alison sent him a picture of her daughter with a small red mark on her arm. "She says it was you," my husband said. "It's your word against a child's." I tried to explain. There were other kids around. I barely interacted with her. No one saw anything. No one heard anything. But somehow, everyone just believed her. His mum called me a few hours later, told me she always knew I had a temper, that maybe now people would see the truth. I stared at the wall that night, unable to sleep. I knew what had really happened, but it didn't matter. I had been accused, and that was enough. They said they wanted to talk, just a conversation, to clear the air. My husband asked me to come over to his mother's house that evening, saying Alison would be there too. "Let's just sit down and discuss everything," he said, like we were two neighbors arguing about a misplaced trash can, not an accusation that could destroy someone's life. I walked in with my heart pounding, hoping they'd finally listen. Instead, I walked into a trap. Alison was already sitting on the couch, holding her daughter on her lap like a fragile little bird. She looked up at me like she was scared, but I saw something in her eyes that wasn't fear. It was calculation. My husband sat across from me, silent, his arms crossed, jaw tight. His mother stood in the corner with that stiff, judgmental posture I'd come to know so well. She wasn't going to hear me out. She was waiting to bury me. Alison started crying almost immediately. She said her daughter had nightmares, that she woke up screaming my name. She said the mark on her arm was from my hand, that I grabbed her too hard when no one was looking. I opened my mouth to speak, but no one wanted to hear it. "You've always had this edge to you," my mother-in-law said sharply. "I've seen it. You snap." Snap? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They were painting me as unstable, violent, dangerous. I looked at my husband, hoping he'd say something, anything to defend me. But he just looked away, like I was some stranger he didn't want to claim. No one asked what I remembered from that day. No one asked if I had even been near the girl when the incident supposedly happened. They didn't want the truth. They wanted confirmation for what they had already decided, that I was the problem. That meeting wasn't about facts or fairness. It was a performance, and I was the villain they had cast in their story. I walked in hoping for peace, and walked out feeling erased, like my voice, my truth, my place in their lives had been quietly deleted. When the front door shut behind me, I knew something had shifted forever. The people I called family had chosen their side, and it wasn't mine. After the so-called family meeting, I felt like I was drowning. My name, my reputation, gone in a matter of hours. My husband wouldn't look me in the eye. I stayed on the couch, barely sleeping, trying to make sense of what had just happened. But one thing kept echoing in my mind. If I didn't do anything wrong, why were they so quick to believe I had? That's when I remembered the cameras. 2 years ago, my husband installed a security system with outdoor cameras. He said it was for safety. They faced the front porch, backyard, and driveway. I never thought I'd need them for anything like this, but now they were all I had. When I asked him about the footage, he shrugged. "They don't record everything," he said, "and even if they did, it wouldn't change how she feels." He made it sound like emotions were more powerful than evidence. I knew he wasn't going to help me. So when he left for work, I used his office computer and accessed the saved recordings myself. I spent hours scrubbing through footage from the day of the party, watching people come and go, kids running, balloons flying away, adults laughing. And then, there it was, Late in the afternoon, the camera facing the backyard caught Alison kneeling beside her daughter near the side gate. No one else around, no one watching. Alison looked around quickly, leaned in, and whispered something in the girl's ear. Her daughter frowned, shook her head. Then Alison touched her arm, gently at first, and then tighter. Her mouth moved fast, her jaw clenched. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read the body language. The girl looked scared, not of me, of her own mother. Then, like flipping a switch, Alison pulled the girl into a hug, smiling, patting her head, leading her back toward the party like nothing had happened. I sat back in the chair, heart racing. I didn't know what exactly she said, but it was clear that Moment wasn't innocent. It wasn't love. It was control. She coached her. She told her daughter to lie. My hands were shaking, not just from anger, but from the cold, sharp realization that this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a setup, and no one in my own home cared enough to ask why. I waited until dinner. I thought maybe, just maybe, if I showed him the footage calmly, without yelling, without accusation, he'd see reason, he'd see me. He was in the kitchen, scrolling on his phone while reheating leftovers. I sat across from him and slid the laptop over. I told him I had something to show him. He didn't even ask what it was, just kept chewing. Look, I said, keeping my voice steady. This is from the backyard camera, from the day of the party. I played the clip. The moment Alison knelt beside her daughter, the way she looked around before leaning in, the way the little girl shook her head, the way Alison's hand tightened on her arm, her lips moving fast, her expression hard, then the fake hug, the fake smile, the way they walked off like nothing happened. My husband watched for maybe 5 seconds, then he looked away. You must have done something off camera, he said, without even thinking about it. I blinked. What? He shrugged. Maybe she was just nervous. Maybe she was trying to comfort her daughter. That doesn't prove anything. I stared at him. It proves she told her daughter what to say. You can see it. He sighed, annoyed. No, what I see is you obsessing over this. You're looking for something that isn't there. You're trying to flip it around. That's when it hit me. It wasn't about proof. It wasn't about facts or evidence or logic. They had already decided who I was. They didn't want truth. They wanted confirmation. They had chosen their story, and I was the villain in it. He walked away, like the conversation was over, like my entire character wasn't just called into question, but dismissed without trial. No matter what I showed him, it would never be enough, because deep down, he didn't want me to be innocent. Innocent meant he had to face the fact that his sister lied, that his family orchestrated something cruel, that maybe, just maybe, he betrayed his own wife for nothing. Guilt would require effort, reflection, change. But blaming me? That was easy. I sat there frozen in the kitchen, while the footage looped again on the screen, watching Alison's hand tighten on her daughter's arm, watching the lie being planted in real time. They weren't just willing to believe it, they wanted to, because believing the lie meant they didn't have to look at themselves. And I realized then, if I wanted the truth to matter, I'd have to make it hurt. A week passed after I showed him the footage, and nothing changed. He still treated me like a guest in my own home, cold, quiet, avoiding eye contact. His mother stopped calling, which was a relief, but also telling. They weren't waiting for truth, they were waiting for me to break. One night, while he was out late with a friend, I couldn't sleep. I was pacing the living room when I noticed his old tablet on the bookshelf, half buried under some magazines, dusty, almost forgotten. He hadn't used it in months, maybe a year. But on impulse, I picked it up and turned it on. No password. The screen lit up and launched straight into his old messaging apps, still logged in. I didn't go looking for anything specific, just opened what was last active. It was a group chat. Alison, my husband, his mother. I stopped breathing. I scrolled slowly. The messages went back months. Most of it was gossip, complaints, mocking tone. But then it got darker. I found messages from Alison venting about me, saying I was cold, fake, trying too hard. My mother-in-law chimed in. She thinks she's better than us. And then, a few weeks before the birthday party, she needs to go. She's not family. My stomach turned. Then the message that cracked everything open. 2 days before the party, from Alison. Just say she touched her. She'll crack. No hesitation. No guilt. Like it was nothing. My husband replied, she's emotional, won't take much. And his mother added, she's not stable enough to handle that. Let's see. My hands were shaking. I read the messages 3, 4 times, making sure I wasn't misunderstanding. They planned it. The accusation, the family ambush, the silence after, all of it. They knew I was innocent. And they did it anyway. I stood in the dark, holding that tablet, feeling like the floor had dropped out from under me. They hadn't just turned against me. They coordinated it, like a game, like a strategy. They wanted to break me. But what they didn't realize was this. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to disappear quietly like they expected. Number. I was going to let them think they won. Just long enough for me to rip everything apart, piece by piece. After finding the group chat, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every glance, every word from my husband felt like poison, but I stayed quiet. I smiled when he walked in the door. I asked how his day was. I let him believe I was broken, exhausted, defeated. He thought I was slipping, but I was watching. One night, while he was in the shower, his phone lit up. I wasn't even trying to snoop, just reflex. But the preview of the message stopped me cold. It was from Alison. Same room next week? I'll bring the wine. My fingers went numb. I picked up the phone and scrolled up. Messages deleted. Nothing else there. But I didn't need more. The tone was casual. Too casual. Like this wasn't the first time. The next day, I drove to his office and waited for him to leave. I watched him drive off, then went inside with a spare key. He always kept paper files in a drawer. He said he didn't trust apps for travel receipts. I opened it. There it was, a printed hotel reservation, 3 weeks ago, downtown, 1 night stay, 2 adults. Attached to the printout was a keycard. I stared at it for a long time. That evening, I called the hotel and pretended I was finalizing a payment. They confirmed everything without hesitation. He checked in with a guest under his membership points. No red flags, except one. The guest listed under his reservation, Alison. I hung up, heart pounding, hands shaking, but not with shock, with clarity. This wasn't about a fight. This wasn't even about me. Alison hadn't just accused me to get me out of the family. She was making room for herself. My husband wasn't confused. He wasn't misled. He was in on it from the start. I checked his voicemail later that night. There was one I'd never noticed, buried under junk calls, from Alison. Hey, I think I left my bracelet in the room. Can you check your bag and delete this, okay? Just in case. She laughed a little at the end, like it was all a joke, like my life wasn't unraveling so she could crawl into it. I sat there, listening to it again, not crying, not screaming, because now I knew this wasn't just betrayal, it was replacement, and I was done being quiet. I didn't say a word, no dramatic exit, no bags packed in a fury, no tears on the bathroom floor, just a quiet dinner, small talk, and a faint smile when he asked if I was feeling better. I told him I was tired, that I needed a little space, that maybe I'd been too emotional about everything. He nodded, almost smug. He thought the storm had passed, that I'd finally accepted defeat. He had no idea what I was doing behind that smile. That night, when the house went still, I got to work. I pulled out an old flash drive from the drawer and began uploading everything. Security footage, screenshots of messages, emails, and financial records. I was methodical, every file renamed, every timestamp saved. I wasn't just keeping receipts. I was building a weapon. I went through every device, mine, his, the old tablet. I downloaded text backups and exported chats. I cross-checked dates, call logs, transactions. I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused, calm, like I'd stepped outside myself and was watching someone else, someone smarter, colder, take over. I found emails from Alison, hotel receipts, photos she sent that he thought were deleted, a gift card she thanked him for, a rental cabin booking under a fake name. I saved it all. Then I started preparing duplicates. 2 flash drives, 3 cloud storage accounts under different emails. I scheduled emails to send out if I ever lost access to my devices. They thought I was folding. They thought I'd been silenced. But I wasn't backing down. I was just taking inventory. Every lie, every betrayal, every message they never meant for me to see. I now owned all of it. He still kissed me on the forehead before bed, like nothing had changed. Alison still texted him like I didn't exist. His mother still sent passive-aggressive reminders about healing the family. They thought they were safe, that they'd broken me. But I wasn't broken. I was just getting ready. And when I finally moved, they'd never see it coming. I picked a Thursday, not because it meant anything special, but because it was ordinary. People let their guard down on ordinary days. No one expects destruction to arrive in manila envelopes and brown cardboard boxes while they sip their morning coffee. I spent the whole night preparing. I printed copies of the group chat, highlighting the worst parts. Alison's line about the accusation, my husband's reply, his mother's encouragement. I attached screenshots of their conversations, the hotel receipts, the voicemails, even the footage of Alison whispering to her daughter in the backyard. Everything, every dirty piece of it. I slid a stack into my husband's briefcase before he left for work, right underneath his files. I mailed a USB to his office with "Urgent for HR only" written in big red marker on the front. I knew they'd open it. I taped one envelope to Alison's windshield. Another I mailed to the school where she volunteered. Her PTA group was in for a treat. His mother got hers under her front door, hand-delivered. But I didn't stop there. I printed a few extras and left them in public places. Church pews, a salon waiting room, a mailbox labelled "Community Board." I wanted it to spread like wildfire. By noon, my phone was blowing up. I didn't answer. By 2 p.m, my husband came home early, pale and shaking. He asked me what I'd done. I just stared at him. 3 people lost their jobs, he said, almost whispering. Do you understand what you've caused? I smiled. By sunset, Alison had disappeared from social media. Her job's main page removed her profile picture. His mother hadn't called once. People started talking. Some neighbors stopped waving. Others sent me quiet texts that simply said, "I'm so sorry." But I didn't want apologies. I wanted exposure. I wanted them to feel what I felt. The paranoia, the shame, the isolation. I didn't scream. I didn't threaten. I didn't lift a hand. All I did was tell the truth. And the truth was so much uglier than anything they ever accused me of. They wanted a war. I just handed them the evidence and let the fire do the rest. When the truth finally hit them, they scattered like roaches in the light. Alison was the first to respond. She posted a carefully worded apology, if you could call it that. No names, no direct admissions, just the classic, "I've made mistakes. I'm working through personal challenges. Please respect my privacy during this time." The comments were brutal. People weren't buying it. The ones who had believed her were furious. The ones who always had doubts now had proof. She deleted the post within the hour. My husband showed up at the house that night, knocking like a lost child. I didn't open the door. He sat on the steps and texted me, "Please, just one last conversation." I waited 20 minutes, then let him in. His eyes were red. His voice cracked. He said he didn't know what Alison had planned, that he was just trying to keep the family together. He told me he made a mistake, that he never stopped loving me. Then he started crying, but I knew those tears. They weren't for me. He cried because he lost his job, because the whispers had started, because the version of himself he projected, dependable husband, good brother, professional, had been torn apart in public. He cried for his own ruined reflection. I didn't say much. I didn't have to. He kept talking, hoping I'd say something kind, forgiving, familiar. I didn't. The next day, his mother called. I let it go to voicemail. She left a long message about being caught in the middle, about how she didn't know Alison would go so far, how she too was a victim of manipulation. It was all damage control. None of it was real. They were trying to rebuild something, to sweep it under the rug, to pretend it had all gotten out of hand. But I wasn't interested in explanations. There was no misunderstanding. There were just choices and consequences. I listened to their excuses with the same blank expression they gave me weeks ago when they accused me. Now, they sat in the ruins of their own betrayal, trying to patch the cracks with half-truths and desperation. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I just let them talk, and I let them see what silence feels like. I signed the divorce papers without hesitation. No speech, no tears, just ink on paper and the kind of silence that says everything. He never fought it. Maybe he knew there was nothing left to defend. By the start of the next week, I had packed what mattered and left behind everything else. I moved into a small, quiet house far enough away that no one could casually drive by. No shared history, no reminders, Just me, 4 walls, and a locked front door. The dog came with me. She didn't hesitate either. When I called her name, she walked straight to the car and never once looked back. Alison didn't fare as well. Once the evidence hit the right hands, her world collapsed. Family court didn't buy her rehearsed answers. Her daughter was placed with her father, not forever, but long enough that Alison's name became toxic in her own community. People stopped calling. Opportunities dried up. She tried to rewrite the story, but too many people had seen the original version. My ex, he faded, not all at once, but piece by piece. His job, let him go. Mutual friends quietly disappeared. His own lies outlived him in rooms he no longer belonged to. And his mother, her voice, once so loud, vanished. The same woman who swore she knew my true colors now avoided eye contact with anyone who remembered what she said. I didn't need revenge. I didn't even need justice in the traditional sense. I just needed the truth to live long enough to outlast them. Now, in this new place with no ghosts, I wake up without waiting for the next blow. I don't flinch at shadows anymore. They wanted to see me ruined, but I walked away clean. They didn't.